Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Daryl Christopher, and today we are going to be featuring our new flagship Classroom product. Classroom is available at all levels of the ASC, MLR, and AST and MAST. We have versions for each level. So we're going to be reviewing everything that comes with the Electude product today, Electude Classroom product today. Before we get started, I did want to let everybody know you are in listen-only mode, but I don't want that to prevent you from asking a question. If you do have a question, I am going to be checking the queue, so just go ahead and raise your hand if you want to vocalize your question. We'll pause and unmute you so you can ask your question, or you can always use the chat or Q&A function within the Zoom platform. So joining me today is Darcy Weddle. Darcy is Director of Customer Success. So he's laser focused on instructor training and implementation. I'm the Director of North American Sales, and we're really excited to have you guys join us today so that we can talk to you about the new Classroom product. So let's start by doing a little bit of a review. So those of you that are familiar with Electude in the past have probably been more familiar with our Automotive Essentials product. What makes Classroom a little bit different than that product is Automotive Essentials is primarily all automotive theory. So, here's a hall sensor, here's what it is, this is what it does. Classroom is going to expand on that. We're not only going to explain what that hall sensor does, and what it's for, but we're also going to show how to replace it, how to measure it. So we're bringing that practical in. The idea behind this was we had a lot of schools that would use Automotive Essentials just as a supplemental product. So we didn't want to just be a side dish anymore. We wanted to have a product that would cover everything that an automotive program needs, from curriculum to safety, to service and repair information, plus all that, the practical hands-on content that you're teaching to the ASE. So we feel like we have that with the Classroom product, also partnered with our partner products, which are our CCAR, eSafety, Career Edge soft skills, Console Lab training devices, Haynes All Access, and MotoLogic repair and information platforms. And then on the truck side, we've got our new heavy truck essentials product, and we've got that paired up now with diesel laptops for truck repair information. So let's talk about what comes with Classroom. So we're going to cover all areas of the ASC, A1 through A8, which you see here on the screen, but you're also going to get additional topic areas. We've got brand new fundamentals content.
I don't know if we see your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing the screen. My apologies. So as you can see, we have all the areas A1 through A8 covered within Classroom, but then down here, you're going to also see we've got new fundamentals content that we've added to Classroom, and we're now including 100 modules on electric drive. So Darcy's going to talk a little bit about these and once we get the demonstration started. So what we've done, as I mentioned earlier, we have created Classroom products to align to all three areas of the ASC. So for those 540-hour programs in MLR, we have a Classroom product. Same for the AST. And then for the mass level, the 1,200-hour programs, we also have a Classroom product. What this is going to include, it's going to include the lesson and quiz modules that you are probably familiar with if you've seen Essentials, but we're going to have new modules on top of that. And then we're also going to have ebook content. So the ebook content, and again, Darcy's going to cover this more in the demonstration, but it's not a textbook. It's a companion guide. We still believe that our e-learning needs to be the centerpiece of our learning experience. So our ebook content is more of a reference to help students understand the e-learning that they're going to be doing. You're also going to have brand new task sheets that are aligned to the new 2022 ASE standards. And then you're going to have brand new tests, Kahoots, and virtual labs. And then we also have how-to modules. And again, Darcy's going to explain what each of these are here in just a moment. So what you're looking at now is our product offerings for this year. We've got our regular Essentials product, and then we have our new Essentials Plus, which is going to be our Essentials that'll include electric drive and an ebook. And then over here is Classroom, which is what we're featuring today. We're also including electric drive here, but you can see you're also going to get quite a bit more features. You're going to get the ebook, you're going to get virtual labs, these new how-to modules, lesson plans, presentation, ASE prep questions, and tests. And then here's the pricing down at the bottom. And then over to the right, far right, we've got our new automotive technology product, which is available with a print book. We're going to be featuring that product in another upcoming webinar series that'll start in a couple weeks. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand the presentation over to Darcy so he can give you the live walkthrough.
Great. All right. Thank you, Daryl. So what we're going to be looking at here today, we're going to start from the student view. I just think it's kind of cleaner and a little easier to show you some of the neat new tools in Classroom from the student view. I do have it set to explore mode like the teacher, so we'll be able to kind of skip our way through this. Traditionally, when a student goes through Electude, they have to go through lessons sequentially before they can move on to the next question. So what I've done here is I assigned myself the entire oops, I assigned myself the wrong course. Just noticed that I assigned Essentials instead of Classroom. So we'll fix that real quick here. We're going to go to the student view and we're going to remove that. So this is kind of how easy it is to assign content if you're not familiar with Electude LMS. We're just going to remove that course real quick and go back over here. And we're going to grab Classroom. And we're going to put that up there to my student view. Perfect. Now we're going to go back in as a student. That looks better. Classroom mass. Let's take a look at what we got here. So the first thing you're going to see right away is we have things arranged according to ASE topics. We felt that was important because that's how most teachers in the US teach. According to have classes aligned to ASE. So let's take a dive here. We'll go into electricity, electronics. And you can see that we have this aligned by chapter. So why did we do this by chapter? That's because when you open this up on the inside and you go into theory, there is this nice companion guide here for a reading experience. So students can click on this button. And here we call this a companion guide, not a full text, because I kind of think of this as almost like a hybrid textbook. So it's still, according to Electude's true form, try to keep the text to a minimum, but with nice color graphics. But it is, complete sentences, more of a reading experience for students. So they can go through this, either before or after, or maybe the same time that they're going through the lessons. They might start the lesson on relay, for example, and then I go, let's see, I want to maybe look at that through, a different set of objectives. So they open up the textbook and they can read this and I go, oh, okay, that makes sense to me now. But they can kind of jump around in this book here too. You can kind of use this left-hand menu and go to wherever you want. The book content will elaborate upon what the student is doing in the e-learning lessons. Like Daryl mentioned before, the e-learning lessons, that's our crown jewel. That's the centerpiece of the learning. but this is going to present some of the same information, but more in a reading point of view, but also adds a little bit additional context to it. So there's going to be additional things here in the textbook that are in addition to what students are learning in the lessons. For example, here, this little section on windshield wiper motor, we don't have an online lesson that trains students about windshield wiper motors, but here we've added that component here to the text. To exit the text, you simply click this little white triangle in the upper left-hand corner, and that takes us back to the course view. So here is our e-learning lessons. We are in the theory folder for chapter 5. And so if I click on relay and start the lesson, here you see our e-learning lessons. If you're not familiar with these, or the first time you've seen these, of course, we always have an interactive graphic here to the left. The text up here at the top is highly important. The student can click this button, it'll read to them out loud. A lot of our lessons start out this way, where I call them hunt and peck style questions, or they're looking for things on the screen. So you can see coil here is blinking, and they need to find the coil. If they click on the wrong item, they get a guided feedback statement to kind of push them in the right direction. So we found the soft iron core. Oh, the coil must be around the soft iron core. And then we give them the call out there. Yep, so you found the coil. I remember this was the soft iron core, the lever, the switch. And then once they get the green light, okay, they can move on to the next question. So the interactive graphics, I think, do a great job of helping students visualize the invisible, the abstract, things that are hard for students to grasp just by just looking at a static page in a book. So really great graphics. Here we're looking at the realistic view and a schematic view. You'll see this theme a lot in Electude electrical lessons, where we show both a realistic view and a schematic view at the same time. Oftentimes students can draw connections like you see here, and draw the circuit. Pretty simple activity here, but as they progress through the lesson, it gets a little bit more difficult. Now they got to, connect the wires from memory without looking at a wiring diagram. So really very realistic. It's almost like having a virtual breadboard in a way, where students can, practice their skills from home. They don't necessarily have to be in front of a trainer board or something like that. But you get your multimeter function here that's fully functional in every sense of the way. We talk about changeover relays and things like that. Really great lesson. Most of our content is like this, where you have these interactive graphics, text, and then a series of questions and activities. There is a teacher feedback button here. So if a student clicks this, they can communicate with their teacher. There's also a presentation view. This traditionally has been a teacher-only function, and it was added to the student view because oftentimes when the teacher's up in front of the class giving a lecture, the students are one-to-one. They might have a Chromebook or something like that. So now students can also put this in presentation mode and kind of follow along with what the teacher is doing up on the board. So it's just a nice way of presenting the graphic nice and big, shoves off all the text on the screen, but you have the interactive graphic. You click the button again and it goes back to normal view. So this is kind of how all Electude lessons are. In previous versions of Electude, we had the quizzes in the same area as the theory lessons. In our new latest rendition of Classroom, we moved the quizzes to their own folder. In this way, a teacher can lock this entire folder and to ensure that the students have gone through the e-learning lessons before they take the quizzes. So that was a request made by a lot of teachers, and so we made that change this year or for next year by putting these quizzes in their own folder. Then we got the practical applications area, and we'll take some look at some things here. We got the training aids. So if you have like Console Lab trainers and you buy the lesson package for Console Lab, those would be here in training aids. We have the Electude simulators. So this here is obviously going to be dealing with probably some relay or electrical issues for chapter 5, relays and components. So if we here we got an engine overheated, towed to shop. So we've blended a lot of the engine simulator faults directly into the platform, so you don't have to go and search for these yourself like in times past. You got your diagnostic system, your oscilloscope, your multimeter. I could probably spend a whole hour just talking about how great this tool is, but that's not the purpose of today's webinar. So I just wanted to show that we have those embedded within the classroom. Most of the simulator faults are going to be in electrical and engine performance. So let's also go back into that practical application, look at some of our labs and activities. I want to draw a lot of attention to this. This is an exclusive feature of the classroom product. This is not, you will not find these in Automotive Essentials or Automotive Essentials Plus. These are our how-to lessons. So traditionally, Electude has always dealt with the theory about how parts and pieces work. And then we've kind of left the how-to up to the teacher, where you would go out in the lab with your students and you do a demonstration. But oftentimes, it's difficult for teachers to do some of these demonstrations nowadays or get all the students around the vehicle where they can see. So Electude decided to step in to the how-to realm, and we're now building video-based lessons that teach procedures and diagnostics. So this one here is testing a relay. So this is a diagnostic how-to. So what you're going to notice about these is there's going to be a little video clip. The students answer a question or two, and they shift gears. They go to the next page and another nice little video clip. These here can also, you can go these in full screen. I can visualize a student maybe going through this lesson before they do the procedure out in the lab, or perhaps the teacher puts this up big on the board and goes through this lesson with their students. The nice thing about this too, there's no audio with it. It's all closed caption, so it allows you, the teacher, to narrate this yourself, which I think is kind of a handy thing. If you're doing instruction in class, you don't want to have to speak over audio. There's embedded wiring diagrams in here. Here again, going to the full screen mode makes that really nice. And I can envision a teacher using this to lecture off of as well. So a great tool to be used either by the student to prepare to do the lab. I didn't actually mean to close that. Or the teacher in the classroom. So as we kind of progress through this, you'll see it shows the complete steps here. They're hooking up the leads, doing some voltage drop tests here, it looks like, on that relay. Very high quality graphics, very nicely done. But what's unique about these is the way that they did this, these short little snippets. It's not that a student has to watch a 10 or 15 or 30-minute video and then answer some questions at the end. These they're assessed along the way, just like in the Electude animation-based lessons. So a very unique way to learn about how to perform procedures or do diagnostics. This here again could be used to supplement your demonstrations, or maybe even replace them altogether. I know a lot of schools are having it so students do a lot of their theory work at home or away from the training center. And so they could be watching this, and then the next day they come to the training center, they've gone through the theory lessons, they've watched the tutorial, and they can go right out into the lab and work on completing the lab activities. So let's take a look at what those lab activities look like. So student went through the e-learning lessons. Maybe they practice on some Console Lab training aids. They've watched the how-to video. Now they're going to jump into the lab. So as Daryl was mentioning earlier, we're trying to provide, we have Electude is successfully providing you all the parts and pieces that you need to teach a class. Everything from the theory to the preparatory, and now the practical application with these labs. So just like an electronic work order, students can type in the information here on the screen. Everything self-saves. We made a big emphasis here to really concentrate on what we call the 3 C's: concern, cause, and correction. But think of this as kind of like a guided work order. There's going to be lots of concise instructions, places for students to document what they're doing on the car, lots of color graphics and photographs. You're going to see even images here from the how-to videos. So it really ties in nicely with those how-tos. The images were taken directly from those videos. A lot of instructions. If you are familiar with our previous lab sheets, they were very basic and they often just told students to refer to service information. There's going to be more instructions in here and some even some tech tips and things like that for the students to follow. So our labs are I would call these enhanced labs if you're already familiar with maybe our previous generation labs. What I like about these two, toward the end here, the students do a final check and they make sure that they've done got all their I's dotted and T's crossed on the car. Hood's open, do their final inspection. We slam the hood on the car. The car is ready to go out the door. And then at the end here, you finish the task, and the student would then wait for that to be evaluated by the instructor. So those are our labs. They're kind of in 3 levels there. We have just activities and then procedures and then also diagnostic labs. The other thing we have here is these virtual labs too. These are just, it's almost like a simulator activity, but it's more guided. So these are always deal with diagnostics. It has certain elements that you'll kind of it'll look familiar from the simulator, like the scan tool, but it's a guided diagnostic exercise. You're going to find these virtual labs mainly in electrical, engine performance, but there are a few air conditioning faults too that students can experiment with. So we call those virtual labs. So let's maybe take a step back here, and we're going to switch gears real briefly here and go in as a teacher, and we'll look at some of the teacher tools that are included with Classroom. All right, so we are, let's go to the student tab here, and we're just going to dive right in here to the course that we were dealing with there. And for the sake of consistency, let's dive back into Electrical Electronics 1. We were in Chapter 5. Here again, we're looking at the teacher view now, and we're going to go this area called Instructor Resources. So here we got some lesson plans. And these are both in Word or PDF, which is kind of nice. So the Word version, when you open this up, you can edit it because it's, although this one looks like this one's a PDF, isn't it? Let's let me take a step back here. I think maybe I clicked on the wrong one, or maybe I need to issue a ticket here. It looks, they're both PDFs. So this should be a Word document. So every now and then I find something like that where we need to make a slight correction, but no worries there. But you should have these both in PDF and Word. So here's the PDF version. That one should be in Word. We have these presentations. Let's take a look at our presentation. So these are all the images from the lessons in the book. And think of this as almost like an enhanced PowerPoint. So you can go through these and here again, use these as a lecture tool. And it gives you some talking points where you, the teacher, can talk about what's on the screen here. So here we're talking about coils on page 1, relays on page 2, relay circuits. Here again, you can put this into presentation mode. So here, if I'm talking about resistors and I find something here I want to talk about, I can put that in presentation mode. So really nice to have all the graphics for the entire chapter all put together there in the instructor resource package. Lastly, let's take a look at these Kahoots. This is a wonderful tool as well. If teachers have used Kahoot, it's a great way to assess students. These are 10 Kahoot questions for each chapter. And I'm just going to put this in classic mode here, and just to kind of show you how this works real quick. Students will just get their cell phones out like I'm doing here. Of course, I don't have my camera on, so you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm grabbing my cell phone, and I'm just going to take a picture of that QR code, and it'll allow me then to input my nickname there. There we go. And you can populate a whole number of students here. So it looks like Daryl and I are going to compete here head to head. So we start this, and it's who can answer the question the quickest and the most accurately. We'll just do a couple of these here. And how is a diode used in a relay? So they got to use the in series with the coil, in series of the load, in parallel. Oh, there we go. I'm going to try to. All right, we got that one there. Let's see. How is a diode? Okay, with parallel. Okay, we got that one. Let's try it again. Scoreboard. Who's in the lead here? All right, maybe I didn't hit the button or something. If the load turns off when the switch is turned off, if the load turns off when the switch is turned off, the relay is normally open, normally closed, switching relay, none of these. And that's kind of how it works. All right. We could have fun here all day with these Kahoots, but we're going to leave this page and go back to our teacher view. And I think at this point, I kind of brushed the highlights there over the entire thing, but we'll just take a step back here. We'll go to back to the course view. You can see here we do have it for AST and MAST aligned to ASE standards. There is a wonderful tracking system too here. If we click this certificate template, just to give you a quick view of that, you can see that we track all the P1s and P2, P3 performance indicators for you. We'll track that for every student for your entire class. And then at the end, when the students are ready to get their certificate, the teacher can provide students with a nice, handsome looking certificate. I do have a custom background overlaid on this certificate, but imagine you, the teacher, having the ability where you could put your school logo here and whatever fancy background that you want on that. So that's just kind of a quick overview. I'm kind of going to end my side of the presentation here, and we'll turn it back over to Daryl for questions.
Yeah, there are no questions in the queue currently right now, but if anybody does have a question, please feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to voice your question, or if you want to type it in the Q&A, we'll be more than glad to answer. Also, love to hear your thoughts if anybody has any thoughts of what Darcy's shown you here today. Yeah, even if there's a certain area that you'd like to see, I kind of stuck with electrical, but maybe there's someone online that wants to take a look at a specific area. Of course, everyone on the call is welcome to their own trial of Electude Classroom that you can even test out with your students. This is fully integratable with Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, Moodle. I believe we even have a Schoology integration now. I don't think we do. It's brand new. We are able to integrate into Schoology now as well. Very good. So, well, Darcy, I'm not seeing any questions from anyone. So if that's the case, if our attendees have no questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. As Darcy mentioned, if you are interested in a trial of Classroom, please reach out to your Electude account manager. If you don't know who that is, you can contact me. And I'm Darrell, DARRELL .Christopher @electude.com, and I will route it to the correct person. And we'll make sure that you get your trial set up. And we'd love to get, this is a new product for us, so we would love to get your feedback as well. And as Darcy's also showing you, if you go to the website, you can request the free trial right from here. That'll give you 2 months access, but we can always extend it if you need a little bit more time. We know that everybody's really busy with classes right now. So if you do need to extend that, we can extend it out, but our typical trial is 2 months. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend.